There is a lot of mystery surrounding these mysterious men from the East. Questions surrounding the star that guided them, why they came to worship a foreign king, the fact that they leave their gifts and just go away. The whole event, really, of their visitation is shrouded in mystery, even though we get hints in the prophecies we hear in the Old Testament. But it must have seemed even more strange to the humble, holy family that welcomed them. But perhaps the most telling characteristic of these wealthy wise men is that they are Gentiles, not Jews. It's significant because it means that they are outsiders to the Jewish world. Now, if this is the most important story for God's people, if this is the event that the chosen people of God have been waiting for, the coming of the Messiah, one would think that the crowd standing around the manger would look a lot different than it did. They should be insiders, not outsiders. There should be Jewish leaders, chief priests, scribes, Sadducees, and Pharisees standing around in adoration of the newborn Christ. But it's the opposite. Everybody in that stable, in some way, is an outsider. Mary, were it not for the discretion of Joseph, even though she's Jewish, would have been stoned to death for getting pregnant outside of the context of her relationship with Joseph. Joseph is an outsider because while he has a key role, certainly, in caring for Mary and Joseph, he is not the biological father of the child. Jesus himself, we could argue, is an outsider because he has left his heavenly throne to take on human flesh and dwell among us. Quite honestly, the animals are the only ones that really belong in that stable. And frankly, they're probably more concerned about the fact that there is a child sleeping in their feeding trough than they are about him being the Savior of the world. And so it's really unbelievable. This event, which is to bring reconciliation between God and humanity, is populated with those who don't have the credentials to get through the gate. And yet, this is exactly who God invites to the party. The shepherds came because of the heavenly hosts. The Magi came through the guidance of a star. Mary and Joseph came because they were visited by an angel. God wanted these people there. And why? Why this crowd? Because those who knew that they did not have him wanted him. And those who thought they already had him had lost their desire. Those who knew they did not have him wanted him. And those who thought they already had him lost their desire. And friends, this is the gift of the outsider, the one who comes in. And we see this all through Jesus' ministry. Those who were cast out from the community of believers, those considered sinners, were the ones crying out to Jesus for healing and mercy. And many of those who were leading the community of believers were the ones crying out for his death. It's a fascinating dynamic. And it's a dynamic that we can't overlook, because there is a risk that we might lose our desire to be with Jesus. Those of us who belong to the church can easily take for granted what has been offered to us. And so we need the outsider to come in and remind us that we don't possess God, that we don't know him in his fullness, that we don't own him like a personal genie to fulfill all of our wishes. Now, Now, certainly it's true. The Catechism reminds us that the fullness of truth subsists in the Catholic Church. But just because Jesus is living in this house, it doesn't mean that we're paying attention to him. It doesn't mean that we're listening. It doesn't mean that we're in conversation with him. It doesn't mean that we're being obedient to him and following him. We can't allow, friends, this is so important, we cannot allow our belonging to the institution of the church to replace our personal search for God as the fulfillment of our desire, as the fulfillment of our hearts. It's the difference between coming to Mass to fulfill an obligation or coming to Mass to meet someone that we love, someone that we desperately desire to be with. This is a significant difference. And this is why when we talk about evangelization, we're not just talking about adding numbers to the ranks. We're not talking about growing our population. Evangelization is our way of avoiding a mere formal belonging to the church. It's a way to unlock the desire of our hearts to find Christ living and acting among us. This is why our dialogue with people of other faiths is so much more than trying to convince them that we're right and they're wrong. We need to be able to see what God has given to us with fresh eyes, with a new desire, a desire to be changed by him. And really, this week is the test for us. Because this week, we enter back into ordinary time. Sounds so boring, doesn't it? Ordinary time. No more magi, no more visiting angels, the Christmas tree's gone, the lights are taken down, we've passed through the season of Christmas, we're back to the ordinary things of life. So what now? What's changed for us after this celebration of Christmas? Either we go back to the mundane, routine way of living our faith, or we decide that from now on, we're going to live our faith with a greater intensity. We're going to live our faith with a greater desire to recognize how Christ is present among us. Now, if you've already decided that you're going to go back to the routine of what you were doing before, you can stop listening, you can go back to reading the bulletin, take a nap, whatever you want to do. But for those of you who are interested in a new adventure, a new way of seeing how God is living and moving among us, I want to suggest one simple thing. Pay attention to the people in your life who have a need, a real need for something. People who are maybe struggling to make ends meet. People who have a need for intimacy and relationship in their life. People who are looking for a community to belong to. People who have some need that they have acknowledged in their own mind and in their own heart that they are seeking to find an answer to. Find those people in your life and stay close to them. Because people who have an awareness of what it is they need go looking for an answer. They go looking for someone who can satisfy this need, this longing that they have. And if we're really attentive, then we can see in those people how God is living and moving among us, how he is responding to their need. And it's a chance for us to kind of get a glimpse of how God is working in their lives and in ours. So friends, let's ask today for the desire of the Magi, the desire of the outsider, the one who maybe doesn't know exactly what to call that desire that they have in their hearts, but they know it's leading them on to something greater. This is the greatest thing that we can ask for, a desire to be led on a journey that helps us to discover how Christ is present in our lives. And maybe if we are obedient to that longing in our hearts, if we are attentive to the needs of our brothers and sisters and where they are being led, maybe we too will be led to the feet of the Messiah, where we can offer our gifts in adoration and give glory to the Word made flesh.